Let me make something clear straight from the get-go here. This is not gonna be a deconstructive staff guide. I will not be telling you how to get the loot needed to make some, while also pointing you in the direction of an ancient pseudoscience station down in the ruins, be it a broken one or otherwise. I will also not be getting into details about how deconstructing structures over hammering them returns all the resources needed to make them, while it's gonna come down to durability when it comes to items in that regard. Less being less, if you know what I mean. And finally, I will not be mentioning much more about a staff's usefulness in gameplay progression and item saving potentials beyond what you can see and hear right here. No. We're looking to discuss the lesser known and perhaps forgotten uses in farms spawned from deconstruction staffs, so we best begin with the one that started them all, yes. An Enlightened Crown dropped by a defeated Celestial Champion can be broken down into 5 Enlightened Crown shards at any point in time. Doing so will provide us with 5 teensy tiny items that will begin to throw off infinite light immediately on their own. However, they can also be placed within mushroom lights to do the same. Not only that, 1 is all that is needed for the maximum light that these structures can provide, and they will also stop the spoilage timers of anything else placed inside these lights. And yes, if you've got the mushroom spores, you can color these shards as well. Have fun. So you see folks, things like that are what this video is for. The obscure stuff. To continue then, did you know that we can now deconstruct Bee Queen crowns too? They do have durability, mind, therefore damaged crowns will potentially drop less overall. However, we should always expect 4 honeycombs, 2 royal jellies, 3 honey, and 4 bees per deconstructed crown at the end of the day. Now the jelly can be made into jelly beans, the honeycombs in the bee boxes and more, and the bees in the flower fields, and so on and so forth. If you've got the extra crowns from extra fights or a loot stash raid, then don't just leave them lying around. You can use them for other things nowadays. And that is especially true with the one item that this mechanic makes the most sense for, spider hats. Dropped via spider queens and the loot stash once more, their purpose is to allow other players besides Weber to control spiders for up to 2 minutes. But yep, that's it. They're pretty not great, but with a deconstruction staff in hand now, we can turn every single spider hat we have into 4 silk, 2 spider glands, and a piece of monster meat as long as durabilities are high enough. It's useful stuff, turning not so useful stuff into useful stuff, if you know what I mean. But from an item deconstruction that makes total sense to a set of 3 that only makes 2/3 sense. All dropped via the Ancient Fuel Weaver and the Fuel Weaver alone, the Bone Helm, Armor, and Shadow Thurple can all be broken down into 4 to 6 Nightmare Fuel, 10 Bone Shards, 2 Cut Stone, and a piece of Ash for good measure, depending on their durabilities, of course. And that's just the thing. The Bone Armor and Shadow Thurple never break at 0%, so deconstructing them makes absolutely 0 sense. It's only the Bone Helm that has a case here in my opinion, but even still, you're not even using this thing for an armor half the time anyways, so why the heck is this even a thing? But oh well, that might be a topic for another day, and to each their own, am I right? As to be fair, similar questions can also arise for the Eye Mask and the Shield of Terror here. Both can break completely, however both can be infinitely repaired if maintained properly, so to outright deconstruct them is kinda wasteful, but we could still do it. Then again, I myself am not the hugest fan of either of these items at the end of the day, so an extra 3 Milky Whites, 2 Monster Meat, 2 Gears, and 3 Nightmare Fuel might suffice. But to end this portion of the video comes the super secret deconstructions that you wouldn't catch me doing in a million years, as I gotta be honest, I didn't even know some of these things existed until today. But Pearl here is our ticket to 2 to 3 cookie cutter shells, 1 to 2 rope, and 3 rot with both of her tackle boxes and fish food exchanges, mind, so that's a thing I guess. However, I will say this, even though they are not really crafts, said exchanges are still influenced by construction amulets, so if you're feeling optimal, I'd make notes here. Especially when these amulets are about to play another huge role soon. But moving on here to pig and merm heads that are also not available to craft. However, if they were, I guess they would cost 4 pigskin, 4 rot, 8 twigs, and a fish, as we can actually double our loot via a staff over simply hammering them. But sunken chests located via additional messages in a bottle usually get hammered in the loot too. But if you deconstruct them instead, you're gonna net 2 extra broken shells if that pleases you. And finally, battles of all things can also be worked with deconstruction staffs that drop 1 log and 1 palm cone scale. And yup, it's a thing. And yup, I have no idea why. And these are things too, everyone. Deconstruction staff farms. So to end the day, let us refresh our memories on some of the greatest loot farms in this game, starting with a Thule-site farm, as old as time itself. Using one of those construction amulets I mentioned, we can have the resources needed to make anything, including Thule-site suits. Where 1, make 5 suits at half price, drop them, and deconstruct those 5 suits individually, and you will net both Thule-site and Nightmare Fuel, folks. It's neat stuff, but it gets oh so much better with these next 2, starting with scaled flooring, of course. And it is very simple. Every scaled flooring craft equates to 4 pieces of turf per 1 dragonfly scale, so if you deconstruct all 4 pieces of turf, you have essentially duplicated the scales themselves, and you're ready to exponentially increase the yields over and over and over again. So good luck. But lastly, at least for today's examples that is, Knapsack Farming. You will have to have killed Misery Toadstool Mind, but do so, and a lot of the same rules from the scale farming are gonna apply. Each knapsack craft nets 4 items per craft, and each deconstructed item drops what you needed to actually craft them, and then some. But here's some advice, however. Do this farm above ground for even more canary feathers per knapsack to help turn this into an insanely profitable 2-in-1 farm that can lead to quote-unquote infinite light anywhere you please with all the bloody mushroom lights you can ever want. Have fun. And there you have it, everyone. An admittedly very random and super specific video on late game techniques with a deconstruction staff in hand, but I think a very noteworthy one nonetheless. I'm thinking a lot of people are not gonna know that a lot of this is even possible. So use what you saw today to your advantage for sure. Thanks for watching, folks. Well wishes to all, deconstruct the world, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.